but today I just don't feel like myself. That took a while for me to do because I was always used to just putting on like a brave face and just saying that, everything is okay and everything gonna be all right. But sometimes just like, nah, today just isn't a great day. And that's okay to say.
Yeah, I agree. So I noticed on your page it talks about breaking free from lust and addiction since 2022. So breaking free from both of those, you were told in the past that, pray it away, pray it'll go better. Like, how long did it take you into your breaking free of those addictions?
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
This episode is brought to you by SoberStrong Apparel. SoberStrong Apparel makes heavyweight premium gear for people who take sobriety seriously. 10% of every order goes back to recovery centers. SoberStrong also runs an impact sponsorship program that puts gear directly into facilities for people just starting out. If you're sober or sober curious, check out SoberStrongApparel.com. Grab some gear, stay sober, stay true, rep the crew. Also, use the code ROCKBOTTOM at checkout for an additional 10% off. That's ROCKBOTTOM, all capital letters, for 10% off at checkout. SoberStrongApparel.com. Love this brand, love the company, love what it stands for. I wear it each and every day. Clothing is stylish, it's good quality, it's definitely worth it. Give it a look, SoberStrongApparel.com. Thanks for watching this episode. Enjoy the show. All right, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan and Rachel. We're here today with our guest, Caleb. Caleb, how are you doing?
Hey, doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good, and you?
Yeah, can't complain. It's been a long day, but overall, no complaints. I'm alive, all by the grace of God. So yeah.
Awesome. Good to hear. Good to hear. So yeah, this is like a recovery podcast. So we're going to kind of go into what you went through with addiction, but we'll start off with a little bit of quick questions like, where are you from? What's your sober date? And what was your drink or drug of choice?
Yeah, so basically, I'm from Connecticut, and what I was really into was more just like weed, pills, but most importantly, it was more just alcohol. That was the biggest one. So I actually just celebrated my sober date about a week ago. It's been January 2nd, 2019. So officially passed over the 7-year mark. And yeah, basically it was a rough journey, but I just took it one day at a time. I've been a big believer in believing in God. It's my Christian faith, and that's really helped me out to really just stay on the straight and narrow.
Awesome. Congratulations. So can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up and what it was like with your family dynamic and like upbringing, what it led to, when it led to your first use?
Yeah, so basically my upbringing was just, I would say, a pretty like strict Christian household. Like you couldn't wear certain things. You obviously couldn't have like long hair or like, earrings and things like that. And we were in church like 3, 4 days a week. And sometimes it was annoying because I didn't really want to be there as a kid. So I first started drinking when I was like, I think like 9 or 10 years old. I was going to go visit my grandma, and she had alcohol lying around. And I basically just decided, you know what? When she's falling asleep, I'm just gonna go drink some more because she would offer me like a tiny little glass of wine, and that was just enough. I wanted more and more and more. And then from there, like I would take like alcohol and then I would just like pour it into a bottle of water and I would just pour it in there, take it, and then I would just put it in my little bag when I was going to go back to Connecticut. So, excuse me, after that, everything just kind of spiraled. After that, ended up getting into trouble, would end up getting into fights with other kids and things like that. I would just be, spiraling out of control. But there would be one side of me that wanted to be like this good old like Christian boy. And then another side of me that would just want to rebel with my other friends and then chase women and drink and smoke and do all these other things because I just wanted to fit in.
And this all started when you were about 9 years old, you
Yeah,
said?
right around there. And then, basically from 9 all the way up to like 16, I just kept getting into kept getting into trouble, keep on trying to put on like a good face for everybody, just trying to be like sneaky, but not really knowing who I really was.
That's a young age to kind of get started. How much do you think you were drinking like at that young age?
Honestly, I never really thought about that, but basically, if I could just take a guess, it would just basically be probably like 3, 4 cups of beer a day. Sometimes it would just be wine, or honestly, sometimes just, whatever I could get my hands on. I wasn't like a picky person. So like, I remember there would just be times where there would be like a family get together. I would go with me and my cousin and things like that. We would sneak off and we would just start drinking. We would just take alcohol from, all the adults, and then we would just go like to the woods or whatever. Like someone would have a dime bag of weed, and then we would just go out and we'd have our cologne or our spray, whatever. So it wouldn't smell bad or whatever, and breath spray and mints and all this other foolish stuff. But like, we knew what we were doing. We just wanted to just get away. We were bored and didn't have any discipline, didn't have any structure, or the structure that we were getting from our Christian background was just too much and too strict, and we just wanted to get away from it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So how were your parents responding to it? Like, what were your relationships with them like when this was going on?
Well, the thing about it is my dad, he never knew. My mom, she didn't know either. So it was like one of those things. So when I started opening up about my drinking problems when I was like older, because when I quit, I was around like 24, 25. My mom was surprised. She didn't think anything was really going on because she was so busy working all the time. And since my dad and my mom got divorced when I was like 6, so my dad kind of was doing his thing in Alabama. I would hear from here and there, but not really a whole lot. My mom was working as a tax collector. Sometimes she was working as a cleaner too. So as I get older, like around like my college years and my high school years, what kept me busy was just basketball, track and field, going to college, and just trying to forget about it. But our family just never talked about these kind of things. We just, we would always just say, pray and read your Bible. We never do anything about detoxing or rehab or anything like that. It was basically just, what happens in this house stays in this house. So don't say nothing and there won't be nothing.
Yeah. Don't ask, don't tell kind of thing.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that you were deep down, and you don't have to answer this if you don't feel comfortable, but do you think deep down that you were trying to suppress all of you were feeling from the separation of your parents at the age of 6, and then you were trying to fit in, you cleaned and all of that?
Yeah, that's basically a combination of a couple of things, basically just trying to, I guess, live up to some good image. But I'm 31 now, and I know is that, good is, in my opinion, pretty subjective. Bad is pretty subjective. Obviously, there's things that you just do and just don't do. But like, with the brain on addiction, obviously you just don't really know the difference. So like as I got sober, I started realizing like, okay, like these just some things you just cannot be doing. Even if you just don't like your boss, like you can't just punch him in the throat because you don't like him. I had to learn these kind of things as I got older. But, with my background and everything that I went through, I didn't know anything about therapy. Like no one talked about therapy. Nobody talked about counseling. Nobody talked about, it's okay to not be okay. Like you just kind of had to, I guess, thug it out and just do what you need to do. But as I get older, I start realizing like you can like ask for help. You can like do podcasts like these. Like my family at one point, they were upset with me for talking about these things years ago. They're like, why are you telling us, why are you telling everybody your dirty laundry? And I'm like, I'm not telling anybody any dirty laundry. This is actually what happened. Like this is not no gossip or nothing.
Yeah.
This is actually what happened. But we were able to get over it now. Like we're on better speaking terms as is now. Some people still make faces, and I've had the one-on-one conversation. I said, "Well, this is what happened. It is what it is." And I've realized that some people just get mad when you tell the truth, and they look bad. But it's like not much else I can really do.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's your journey. So tell your truth. It's your
Uh
journey.
huh.
It really happened. So yeah, don't stop.
And getting our dirty laundry out there tends to help people based on what I'm finding out. Helps a
Yeah.
lot of people, saves a lot of people the years and years of trials and tribulations when they hear what other people are going through and went through, so
Absolutely.
yeah. So how did it like progress, like going into like say teen years? How was high school? All that stuff. Like, do you feel like you were going through any kind of like depression, anxiety and stuff that you were like trying to mask and cover up? Or what kind of stuff were you thinking when you were drinking? Like, why?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the one things I was, trying to get away from was really just depression. I was really missing my dad a lot. Sometimes he would just be angry for no reason, but I always just wanted to wonder, like, why is it that he's so angry? Sometimes I felt guilty because my mom was working all these hours, and I was just like, why is it that no one's helping her? And why is it that she letting everybody just take advantage of her? I just couldn't really understand that. So what I would do is my mom didn't really have the best relationship, so she was always in and out of relationships. So I remember when I was like 18, like my teen years through like 14 through 17, I guess I would say managing pretty well. But then when I started breaking down was like when I was like 18 as a senior, that's when the drinking got worse. Like I remember like we would do senior skip day, we would do like little things. Yeah, we would just do like little things. So now like I'm literally bringing in like a little bottle and like I'm this good squeaky clean kid, but to them, they don't know I got a drinking problem because I'm so good at like masking it and hiding it. So I'm bringing a bottle of alcohol and I'm drinking it during like, in the beginning because since I'm a senior, I got good grades and things like that. And I didn't have a car, so I had to go to school. So I was just like found a couple buddies. I was like, hey, I got a bottle. Like this is from yeah, it was weird because my mom was able to get some guy to buy her like 8 bottles of vodka. So like I would take some of the vodka and I would just pour it in the bottle of water and I would just bring it to school. And that's when the drinking just started getting worse and worse and worse. I'll be at events, and one of my buddies was like, "Dude, you're gonna get caught." I'm like, "I don't care if I get caught. I don't care about this because that's how much I just don't care." No one is talking to me. Everybody's ignoring me. Everybody thinks that I got it all together, but like deep down inside, I ain't got it all together. I'm just trying to figure it out. And honestly, this liquor is helping me out. So that's what I was doing. So to answer the question, it just kept getting worse because I knew I was going through something. I knew I was going through depression and anxiety, but I'm conditioned to just pray. And I don't know who I'm praying to. I don't know what to say to these church people, but so I just kept drinking. So that's what I was doing.
That was the solution to everything, was like, you want actual help with your, mental health and everything, but it's like, if they're saying just pray the demons away on everything, it seems like, it's like, all right, what else can I do, because it's not helping.
Exactly, because people keep
Yeah.
saying,
No, no.
you just got to keep praying and praying and praying. But as I get older, I start realizing like there is a thing called therapy, there is a thing called counseling. Like I'm not against it at all. But like when I was older, I was conditioned to not be against it. But when I started talking about my story, my mom started to come around and start realizing, okay, it is good. It is good to go to therapy. Like it is good to go to a meeting. It is good to be around other people who share the same stories that you do. I mean, obviously, there's gonna be people that you vibe with, and there's gonna be other people. It's like this just doesn't work out. But at the end of the day, like it is good to be around other people who can understand you. Like not everything is a demon. And I think sometimes when I go to these churches, I've had problems with them because they think everything is a demon. I'm like, no, this is a mental health issue. This person may have a chemical imbalance in their brain that they don't even know about. Like, just be a little bit more sympathetic towards that.
Yeah, definitely. And when did you start realizing you needed to handle your mental health and stop drinking, though?
I think it was more like around like 23. Yeah, when I was like 23 out of college, it's just like, this is getting out of control. I had to cut off a couple of friends because we went from like drinking and then I lost a couple of friends that were dying of heroin because they got into that. And I was like, I'm going to have to make a difficult decision because I can't keep being around people who are shooting up and trying to drink as well. So I just started reading like random books and I just started, going online to online forums and studying about addiction. The way I did it, I wouldn't agree with it, but I kind of went cold turkey. I just started drinking more water and I just got really into fitness and things like that. Looking back at it now, it would have been good if I did go to like rehab, if I did go to a detox center, because, I wouldn't recommend anyone just go cold turkey like I did and, doing that kind of stuff because you can really mess up your health and you could possibly die. But it was what I just felt that was the main thing to do because I was just around a bunch of people who weren't trying to really do anything in life. And I think I was trying to really people please and save them. And I realized like I don't think I'm gonna be able to save them. there are still days I just, I do wish that, they could be better, but to protect my own mental health, I have to stay away from now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
understandable. So you were smoking weed and drinking, but did you ever kind of consider getting into the harder stuff like your friends were getting into?
Yeah, there was a consideration there a couple times. I remember there was one time where we were all just getting together. We had this place called Freddy's, which is literally just in the woods. And it was me and a couple other people, and they were smoking weed. We was drinking the old typical day. I'm like out of college. I'm on college break. So like I'll go hang out with these guys to unwind or whatever from all my classes. And what I realized is that, they were trying to offer me like cocaine. I'm like, no, I don't want cocaine, nothing like that. I'm like, yeah, never get into cocaine, man. It's a really bad vice. And I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I'm not gonna get into all that. And then after that, they started saying, well, you just too goody two shoes for us, and the vibes weren't matching anymore. And I was like, we ended up just basically going our separate ways. Yeah.
I wish I could say the same. I think Rachel and I both, at our own times in our addictions, got into cocaine for a while, and it does take over.
Yeah.
It does become a priority, and it's like, yeah, the drinking's already out of control, but then once you do a line, all of a sudden you're like, I can keep drinking all night, So it
Yeah.
just takes the whole addiction to another level.
Yes, it does.
So I admire the fact that you were able to like stay away from that, because it just, yeah, it takes everything from me. Yeah. So as that progressed, so like I understand, like I'm not justifying it, but being in college and stuff, being in like age, 18 to 23, in those years, you're around alcohol all the time. So it's like I justified being an alcoholic when I was those ages, because I was like, well, that's what everybody's doing. We all party, we all have fun. But you realize at that age, 23, is when like you're like, okay, this is my. What were you thinking like when you decided to stop altogether? Like, what was going through your head? Why did you decide like this is it? I'm never going back to it? Like, what was that thought?
Yeah, so I think the thought was like, I just ain't doing no more in my life. Like I can't just keep on doing this. Like I did graduate from college and I had to spend an extra year there. I was like, okay, like I'll spend an extra year here because I was drinking too much. So I just was neglecting some of my studies, and my mom was mad at me. It's like, you should have graduated earlier. You should have did this, 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 and this. If you would have did this would have happened. And I'm arguing with her. I'm like, we have no idea if that would happen or not. Like, just chill out. And she obviously did not like that because because I was drinking, I always had such a bad attitude. And I was just, not the funnest person to be around unless I was drinking. And, I would just justify it like that. But I realized, like, I can't just keep treating people like trash and just being like, oh, well, that's just who I am or whatever the case may be. That was a part of it. Another part of it was, as I said a little earlier, wasn't doing nothing with my life. So like I got to go find something. So I just, I told myself like this is just not working out. So there were a couple of people I was hanging out with. And I pulled my buddy Nick to the side. I'm like, listen, man, I don't know what else to tell you, but like we got to be doing something with our lives, or I'm just gonna have to get rid of you and everybody else. And he didn't like that. And that's the thing is that me being direct has sometimes it's pissed people off. Sometimes people have been gravitated towards it. It's either one or the other. And what I just realized is that, I got to do better with my life. So, like, fast forward with my life now, I work as a clinical assistant in a rehab center. I run Choosing Your Freedom. That's my own business. And I help out a lot of people, life coaching, recovery coaching. I'm active in my church when I can be. And I just try to just spread the good word of recovery and God. But overall, I realized is that, even though I always have my gripes with the church or whatever the case may be, I do believe that God has put me here on this earth for a purpose to help people out. So I've been speaking in front of people, been doing workshops here and there, and I've just been trying to spread as much positivity as I can because I always knew everything that I've been through has been telling some kind of a story. But and I believe the story that I'm supposed to tell is to spread positivity, tell people don't do drugs, don't be drinking. Like there's other ways to cope with things. There's other ways to cope with your mental health. If you're struggling, get some help. Ain't no shame in getting help. We all need help. We all need somebody to help us out. So this is the message I try to portray overall.
Mm-hmm. And let's actually go back a little bit. What was the last 24-hour period where you were like, I surrender? Like the last 24-hour period. Did you end up going to AA? Because I know you said you didn't go to rehab.
So I didn't go to AA. I didn't know what AA was. I didn't know what NA was. I just thought it was for like, no disrespect when I say this, I just thought it was for older people. I didn't think it was for people who are around my age. I just like, this don't make no sense. And why these people keep telling themselves that they addicts and alcoholics over and over again, I just really couldn't understand it. So it was just like, oh, this is just I don't think this is for me. So basically, I guess it was the combination of those like last 24 hours. It was just, I remember I was at a party. It was me, Nick, and his ex girlfriend at the time. And we were just having a conversation and we were talking. And it was just, we were drinking a whole lot. Like we had drank like the whole night, like a combination of energy drinks, a combination of just vodka and beer and all this stuff. I wake up and obviously I'm just throwing up because I got too much in my system. So, and I'm just ended up as me, my buddy, and we're at his girlfriend's house. And I'm just like, I just don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to be here.
Mhm.
This place just kind of sucks. Like, I just don't enjoy being here. I don't enjoy being around y'all. And the funny thing about it is like, that was the time I actually quit. January 2nd, I quit altogether and I would still hang out with my buddies, still hang out with them. We would still go to bars and I would literally just get like a cranberry juice. I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. So like we ended up just going our separate ways and that was about it. So just after that, I just said, I guess that thought of, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I guess I'm just going to have to thug it out, pray, and try to find some kind of a community that understands me. So yeah.
And you mentioned early in the interview earlier, there were women involved, right? You were addicted to being around a lot of women.
Mhm.
And what did that play a role into your addiction?
It played a role, part of it. I was definitely, manipulating and trying to play the field and having like all these numbers there. So what I did is just a couple years ago, I just gave up sex altogether. The pornography, the masturbation, the casual sex. It wasn't that easy, but that's when I started going to more meetings. The meetings that I would go to is Celebrate Recovery. This is like more like faith based, but it has like an NA component. So that really helped me out to understand a couple things. I've been in therapy recently too to help to reframe my thoughts and work on my self-esteem, work on my coping skills, and work on my confidence overall. But that was the main thing, just being touched inappropriately as a kid was the factor, and like I said before, as we said earlier in the interview, like the Christian background of, just pray it away and God will take care of you. Don't tell anybody, you just have some demons in you and you just need to go to this altar or whatever. But as therapy, being in sober recovery, being in Bible studies, being around like pastors who actually understand like spirituality, mental health, and addiction, and the science as well, that really all helped me out as well. And also a combination of emotional intelligence that all together helped me to understand, like, okay, like, yeah, there is a problem with me, but all because there is a problem with me, that doesn't mean I have to, chase women, drink, smoke, or take drugs or anything like that. Like there's other things like meditation, like breath work, like outside air, going to, meetings, going to therapy when he's struggling. Like if anything, just call somebody on the phone. I'm like, hey, like today just kind of sucks. Like, this day, it ain't the vibe. I don't know what's going on, but today I just don't feel like myself. That took a while for me to do because I was always used to just putting on like a brave face and just saying that, everything is okay and everything gonna be all right. But sometimes just like, nah, today just isn't a great day. And that's okay to say.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I noticed on your page it talks about being breaking free from lust and
Mhm.
addiction since 2022. Like, so breaking free from both of those, you were told in the past that, pray it away, pray it'll go better. Like, how long did it take you into your breaking free of those addictions? Did you start to actually realize, oh, actual prayer and my religion and everything is actually helping me? Because it seems like you still have faith-based recovery. So it obviously came around and actually opened your eyes a little, I assume.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely did. It took some time because it was like a combination of learning, relearning, and unlearning, like all kind of three at the same time. So I did realize is that, if anything, what I realized just people. People just suck. And there really is no other easier way to say this, but there's just some people in the Christian faith that just suck and they just make the Christian religion look terrible. There really is no easier way to say this. So I had to get over that gripe of like, okay, like Yes, there are people in this faith who just don't know how to treat people well, but like they are sick and suffering. They have a disease. There's something going on with them internally, and they're projecting it on everybody else and making everybody else feel miserable. And I was like, well, I don't have to join that. I don't have to do that. And like I said, I never try to preach it to anybody. I tell people I'm a Christian, but I was always careful to say, you know what? I'm not going to shove this down anybody's throat. I just say, this is my belief system is what helped me out to stay free. It's helped me to stay clean to this day. But I've learned is that when you try to shove things down everybody's throat, it always goes in one ear, out the other ear, causing all these unnecessary arguments. And if anything, people just don't want to be around you. So I've tried to explain this to other people, and this is what I realized. Some people get it, and then some people don't get it. So with me having my faith-based recovery overall, it's helped me out to understand is that people are going to be people. I don't have to hang out with everybody. There's some people who just aren't gonna see things the way that I see it, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah. No, that's good.
I couldn't agree more. You have faith-based recovery. Other than faith, though, you mentioned meditation. Is that something you're really big
Yeah,
on?
that is something I've gotten a lot bigger on. That and breath work because sometimes I realize that my brain just goes really, really fast sometimes. And then I start thinking too much into the future, and it gives me just a whole lot of anxiety. And I'm like, then I start scanning the room, and then I start thinking that something's going on. And it's like, okay, let me just like pause for about 10 minutes, take a couple deep breaths, and just realize, okay, what's really going on? What's the questions I got to ask? And most importantly, I realized is that it's more just about gaining clarity. If I just can gain clarity and just pause and just relax and just try to understand what's going on, I'll be fine. And also the biggest thing is just when it comes to meditation, I just let go. I just try to let go of all the control and I just try to just center myself, which has really been very helpful.
What was your major, if you don't mind me asking, and does it kind of incorporate into what you do now as far
I
as?
mean, oddly enough, in a way, I got a mass communication degree and I got certified as a recovery support specialist and as a life coach as well. And I've thought about going back to school, but I'm not too sure yet. If I was, it's going to be like probably a therapist or clinician. To answer the question, like how it played in is I think I just learned how to talk to people. I learned how to understand people better and I learned how to just understand other people's cultures, other people's backgrounds, like whatever the case may be, and understand is that, I may not necessarily agree with something, but I don't have to jump down their throat. Everybody has their own communication style. And just most importantly too, just learning that everybody is different. We don't all have to act the same way. We don't all do things the same way. There's gonna be times where we'll be able to come to common ground, and there's gonna be other times just like, we just may not vibe at all. But overall, I think that's what my degree taught me.
Do you have a family now? Like now that you're in sobriety and you've carried on with your faith, did you take that with you and start a family? Are you working on that? Do you have a support system other than just, your parents?
Yeah, so like I do have a support system. Like my mom passed like 4 years ago, but me and my dad, we rekindled. So he's my support system. My pastor's my support system. I do have a couple people in my church who are my support system. And yeah, just overall, I have people that I can reach out to. Like with my church, is that they're good at the mental health aspect. So like there was a class I did called like Grief Share a couple years ago. So I've met like family through there over the years, I kind of just created like my own family, people that I really vibe with very well. I know there's people if like things are just not going the way I want it to go, I could easily just get on the phone and call them and just have a conversation or I could literally just get in my car, go to their place and just have a conversation. So I'm just very thankful and very blessed for that overall. Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
good. And most of the friends and stuff you surround yourself with are all people that are like-minded and not still drinking and using and stuff like that.
Yeah, so no one I hang out with is drinking, smoking, or doing any kind of drugs at all. That was the line I drew like about like 7 years ago. Just basically was like, hey, look, listen, if we're gonna be friends, you're gonna be a part of my family. Like, I can't be around you if you're smoking and drinking and doing all these drugs. Like, it's just not gonna work out with me. I
Mhm.
love you from afar, but I take my recovery seriously. So that was the line that I drew.
That's good.
Yeah. Changing your environment is extremely important
Hmm.
because you are who you hang out with for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Have you have you had any say moments in your recovery where you thought about just kind of slipping up, or hey, I can go out again for a brief period and come back to where I'm at, or any slip ups, or you just like full going on in the direction you're going?
I've had just that straight and narrow, that real straight and narrow, man. Just basically there were times I thought about it. I can't hold you. There was times I thought about it. Like, you know what? This life is just really boring. Like, that's been one of my biggest triggers for me is that it's either boredom or stress or just loneliness. And it's like, well, and I try to tell myself, just justifying in my brain, like, well, one last time, one last hoorah, if you may. And I tell myself it's not worth it. And it's really not worth it. I'm not trying to do this no more. So I stay the straight and narrow. It's funny at my job, like they call me the TV police because like at 11, I tell them like, all right, we gotta turn TV off. It's time to go to bed. I'm like, here's the fun killer or whatever. It's hilarious to me because like I'm far from that, but it's like they know deep down inside, like I care about them. I love them and I just want to see them stay on the straight and narrow path. But like in early recovery, like I get it, they thinking that I'm trying to kill they fun. I'm not, but it's just like, there's rules that I gotta follow. There's things I can't do, there's things I can do. But with them, it's like I just learned overall with addiction, because I was the same way too, just trying to rebel against everything. And I don't know how to do this, this, and this. But I knew deep down inside, it didn't really matter. It was just basically I just wanted to do what I wanted to do and control my own future and just not submit to anything. So overall, there were times I had those slip ups to just be bad again, but I just start realizing this it's not who I am anymore. So this is who I am now, and I'm okay with that.
That's awesome. So, as things went along, when did you start the Rise Again Brotherhood, and like what inspired that concept?
Yeah, so what inspired that concept was, as I said before, a lot of people were struggling with addiction. The biggest one was pornography, and the other one was drinking, and the other one was weed. Those are the three things I saw and nobody wanted to just openly say anything about it. Everybody wanted to kind of just hide it and act like, oh, this isn't going on. And I was like, well, it is going on. So somebody needs to say something. And the one that was celebrate recovery, the faith-based recovery thing, it's good. It has, definitely has what I like to say is that it has a lot of good moments in there, but it gravitates towards a more older crowd. And it doesn't really gravitate towards people. I'm 31 years old. I've heard it. People have said, like, I tried it out. I tried sober recovery because I didn't want to do NA and NA because, what they had said is that it wasn't Christian based with the way I wanted it to be. And so Sober Recovery was providing that alternative, but it was like, well, it's a bunch of people who are twice my age. They don't listen. They treat me like I'm a kid. They treat me like I'm nobody, and I don't like it. And I don't want to be here. So I created an alternative called the Rise Again Brotherhood, which was more just about structure, goals, talking about overcoming addiction, bad hurts, bad hangups, and most importantly, helping us to be Christian men, but like we obviously have issues, whether it's with women, whether it's with our coworkers, whether it's with our job or addiction, depression, anxiety. And like, we don't have to just be like these good old Christian boys. We could just say, hey, like, this is what's been going on in my life. And I struggle with low self esteem. Like in the Christian space, they'll often say, if you're dealing with anxiety, just cast it all away. You need to read the Bible more, this, that, and the other. And what I had to learn over the years is that they do this because they're afraid. That they're afraid if I admit that I have a problem, I'm not a good Christian. And it's like, it has nothing to do with you being a good Christian or a bad Christian. You just a regular person. Like God created us all to be human. Jesus was a human too. He had times where he's just like, you know what? I don't feel so great about myself. Before he died on the cross, like he was talking to his disciples and he said, like, I don't know if I want to do this. So how that ties in, what I tell people is that with the Rise Again Brotherhood, it is okay to not feel okay, to not think that they're okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. So basically the Rise Again Brotherhood was created to just be the alternative space, and we've been doing it now for about a year now. And, we've had people come, we've had people go, and I've told people like, hey, look, listen, if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not, but we won't force you. We're not going to try to press you or anything, but this is just a space and you're more than welcome to come. And if you leave, you're always welcome to come back. So that's how I do it.
Wow.
And would you say for men or even I guess women too, right, that have a lust issue, that stems down from what? Feeling like low self-esteem, you would
Yeah,
say?
I would
Good
say that
question.
low self-esteem, there's obviously been people who've been touched inappropriately when they were a kid. And from a faith-based background, from the Christian background, what I've learned, what I've gathered through talking to both men and women, but mostly men, from the man perspective, we feel as if we got some. Okay, so we don't say anything. Like my granddaddy had over 23 children. And my dad would always say, like, granddaddy was a good man, but he was a hoe. That's just it. That's how he would say things. But he would just say, like, like, hey, look, listen, like, we love women in this family, big man. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, like, it's good to love women, it's good to love the opposite sex, but like, we can't just treat them like they're disposable. We can't do things like that. So in the Christian faith, there's been pastors, there's been preachers, there's been Baptists, all these kind of people who want to hide behind, the Bible, but don't want to just sit down and say, I struggle with lust because they say, I'm a man and this is what I do and this, that, and the other, but they don't want to tell the truth about how they was touched inappropriately when they was like 6, 7 years of age. There's been men, they've opened up. They said, like my auntie or my cousin had me touching on her. And I was like 13 years of age and she was like 30, 40 years old. And we're just taught in our brain, you got some, you got lucky. So if you around the basketball court, well, that's why I grew up, the basketball court, or you're hanging out with your friends, but oh, like auntie did that all to you would get laughed at. So of course, as a man, you basically suppress all that. And now you're angry. Now you're unmotivated and now you're mad because you can't really connect with a woman the way that you want to because you're always trying to get in bed with her. And all she's trying to do is just have a conversation with you and just get to know you. So that's what I had been learning.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, when you're, yeah, like you said, it's like something that friends were laughing about and stuff like that, or they think it's cool. Oh yeah, that happened, with my aunt or whatever. But it's like, and it makes you wonder like how much of the desire for women or whatever is hereditary, like being a philanderer and stuff like that, or how much of it is like being inspired by, say, your dad or your grandfather or stuff like that, and you're like, that's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be woman after woman after woman. You wonder how much of that is learned behavior and how much was like predestined to do. So
Mm.
yeah, so I find that interesting, but like I think Rachel brings up a good question about having it to be with about self-esteem, because I know that I used to try to hook up with every girl that even gave me the time of day just for like validation, because I was so insecure at heart, but I would try to put off this like false sense of confidence so I could go out and get laid or get a girlfriend or whatever. And it's just like, I don't know if that's the case with you, but I know low self-esteem had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the cases I was dealing with, just low self-esteem, not really knowing who I was and trying to always be something that I wasn't. So I would like try to like crack jokes and try to just be cool in front of everybody. And most of the drinking really just came from the fact that I told myself that I can't have a conversation with somebody without alcohol. And it wasn't even the case. It was just basically just I wanted somebody to like me that badly. And I'm like, well, I don't need somebody to like me that badly. If they like you, they like you. They don't, they don't. But, at the end of the day, I would just tell myself is that, why am I doing all these things? And that's what helped out with the meditation, as I said earlier, so I could just pause and just be like, okay, I'm really about to sit down here and argue with somebody over something that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. Or, oh, okay, I'm gonna literally sit down here and cuss out my boss because I didn't get my way. Just those things where I just literally just try to pause and just say, okay, let me think this all the way through before I get out here and do it. And that's really helped out a lot. So when it came to women, it's like, okay, like I'm really entertaining somebody who I'm pretty sure just doesn't like me, doesn't want anything to do with me. Why am I going all the way through with this? So that has been very helpful to do.
Good.
Yeah, I ground myself often. So meditation has been big with my recovery personally, especially with anger, not lust, but with anger and not cursing out bosses and employees and etc. So yeah, grounding yourself and realizing where you are at that moment, not the future. Very important. You mentioned fitness. Do you also you work out often as well? Does that help you in your recovery?
Yeah, it's been very helpful because sometimes I definitely just struggle with like anger and hostility or just like bad. I had really bad stress coping skills. So like fitness has been very, very helpful. So like having a therapist has been very helpful, but also just adding in like just fitness. Like a couple months ago, I just did a 5K. Been lifting 3 days a week, just trying to get like 10,000 steps in a day. obviously, working in a treatment facility, it could be freaking stressful. It's like, okay, like this is not that deep. Like, why are you trying to argue with me over a TV? Like, just chill out. Well, obviously,
Yeah.
it's just them just being them. So like going to the gym, it's like, okay, like I could just relieve that stress because like I could just leave the job at the job. I go to fitness, I do my thing at the gym, and then I walk outside. Big component just being outside, even though it's cold out here in Connecticut, but like just having like that fresh air is like, oh man, I just feel so much better because like you spend too much time indoors and it just is not really that great for your health. So like, yeah, fitness has just been great for just my mental health, my physical well-being, and then just adding in like meditation, breath work, and adding in therapy as well. It's been very helpful.
Mhm.
Well, that's good. When you said, people complaining about turning the TV off, this is not that deep. I mean, it just reminds me of how everything when you're in early recovery is a big deal, but you start to realize the longer you're in recovery, you start to look at these little things and you're like, why the hell did I complain about that? Like, why
Mhm.
was I bitching? Everything just gets easier. And, like speaking of like your confidence and like self-esteem and all that, did you notice as time went on, now that you're giving speeches and like starting the Rise of Brotherhood and stuff, do you notice that you have just this confidence that you never realized you had the whole time that came out, that was like stronger than before you're even using?
Honestly, I never paused enough to really reflect on it. It was just I kind of just sat down here and I just went out and I did it. Coworkers and people told me like, you're really good at like teaching and speaking in front of people. And I'm like, I never thought about it like that. My main goal was like I just wanted to help somebody out because I didn't want to see somebody, smoking and drinking and struggling the way I did. I was like, well, I don't really like to talk that much. I'm naturally an introvert, but like when I talk about topics like this, it interests me, it excites me, and overall, it's like, I just wanted to help somebody else. It's like, if I just want to be able to help somebody out, I'll speak all day if you need me to. But like at the end of the day, it's one of
Yeah.
those
Mhm.
things. It's like my thing was if I could talk and help out somebody to say, hey, look, listen, I may not stop drinking today because of what he said, but that what he said made sense. I may not, stop chasing after all these women, and I may think he's corny or whatever for doing all this, but like he does make a good point. Like, I'm doing this because of X, Y, and Z, and why am I doing this? So, if anything, what I learned is with like teaching and speaking and the Rise Again Brotherhood, it's a possibility that they can change overnight, but it's highly unlikely. It really is. But like at least I'll plant that seed and be like, okay, like I may want to at least try out therapy. I may want to schedule a coaching session with them. I may just want to keep going on. Cause I learned like I predominantly coach the men. With men, they like to just try to like feel things out. They're not really like against it, but they just like, okay, like what he's saying is pretty interesting. It's intriguing, let me just listen to him. Because I've had guys who would just argue with me tooth and nail, and I'm like, where are we going at with this? And then, start realizing, you know what? They would just randomly come up to me and just apologize. I'm like, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Like, I get it. It happens. Like, you don't have to say anything to me. One thing I learned in life is that stop taking things so personal. Like, there's a reason behind it, just pause and just reflect on it. Like, just even just earlier today, there was just like some situation going on with my time card. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that I could figure this out. And I figured it out. It was just a minor issue
Mhm.
with the system. But if I was in early recovery, I'd be like, nah, they trying to play me. They trying to screw
That
me
would cripple you,
over.
yeah.
They try to take my money away. Who they got me all the way messed up. It's like, no, no, it was just the issue with the time card. Like technology don't be technology. Sometimes it just has errors. But like I figured it out and everything's all good. So there you go.
Yeah.
If you could okay, like if you could go back to speak to yourself in active addiction, what would you say to yourself?
Yeah. So I would tell myself that, it's a bad day, but a bad day doesn't equal a bad life. So
Mhm.
that's like kind of the quote that I just been trying to use to reframe myself and ground myself because I just been realizing that sometimes in life we just have these overwhelming feelings, thoughts, and emotions, and then you throw in things like grief and you just start ruminating about all these other things. And it's like if you just pause and just say a bad day doesn't equal a bad life, that's what I would tell myself in
Right.
active
What you
addiction
said.
is that, what you're going through, it feels like it's impossible, but just pause and understand that you will get through it.
That's well said. For sure. Because at that moment, we really don't think we're going to get through it, right?
Mhm.
We feel lost and scared.
Yeah, absolutely. And then those feelings of being just lost and scared, we end up just saying, you know what, maybe I should just go back to my old life. Because I realized with me, whenever I had those thoughts of, maybe I should go back to my old life, it was really just coming out of fear. I was afraid and I was like, you know what, maybe I just don't deserve a good life. So I would just let the negative thinking patterns, keep on hitting me and I would just start ruminating on that. So what I've been doing more is having like, more of a positive mental attitude about things. So it's like, you know what? Like instead of just saying, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, or this is awful, how come this happened to me? How come that happened to me? What I've been telling myself and reframing my thoughts is saying, I get to do this, you know, this may not be the way I want it to be, but what could I do about it? Having those kind of thoughts they help me out a lot more.
I was curious, just going back a little bit. You spoke about your mother
Yeah.
passing, and sorry for your loss. Rachel's also dealt with grief of losing her mother too. So, how do you teach a lot of people of how to deal with grief and recovery, and how did you deal with it?
So in recovery, I tell people, really is that when you lose somebody, it's hard. But I've learned through grief share, it's okay to just not be okay. If you're just having a bad day, so you're just having a bad day. So what I tell people is that, literally just don't isolate all the time. But like if you need some time just to have some solitude and also don't take it personal when people are reaching out to you. A lot of people are always trying to find like the perfect words to say. I never have the perfect words to say, so sometimes I just shut up and listen. That's what helps out with me, because sometimes a lot of people don't want to hear nothing positive. That's just the reality. Some people they just want to have a conversation with you, but you also got to have a boundary too, because you can't always keep absorbing what everybody's saying over and over and over again, because now it becomes trauma dumping. It's not them, it's just that's how they're coping with it. So you have to have that boundary. Just say, okay, like I hear you, I understand what you're going through. But like I said, respectfully, I got to protect my peace here. So can we talk tomorrow? I'll be here tomorrow. I got a couple other things I got to do. Now, if they, have a negative reaction towards it, I've learned to just not take it personal. So I tell people not take it personal, because grief will have you feeling everything. That's what I've learned. It has you feeling angry, depressed. Why did this happen? With me being a Christian, like, God, why'd you take my mom away so soon? But with me dealing with this, because she's been gone for over 4 years now. So what I've learned for myself is that I didn't want God to take away my mom. I don't know why she passed away with cancer, but she grew up in that old school generation. The old school generation was, you let go and you just let God have his way. It could have probably been prevented. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I don't really know all that stuff, but she had a lot of health issues now that I think about it, but she didn't think about going to a doctor or, say anything about it. She just said, if it's the Lord's time to go, then it's time for you to go. So I learned to just respect it. I never liked it, and I still don't like it. But I learned to just respect it because that's what she believed.
Do you, me, I lost my sister about 4 years ago too. Rachel lost her mother and stuff. Do you use it as kind of like a form of motivation, to say like, hey, my mother's proud of me, she's watching over me right now while I'm staying sober and I'm helping people, to use it as motivation?
Yeah, I definitely use it as motivation because I knew my mom wanted me to. My mom was always very supportive of the things that I did. So I knew like she would be proud of the work that I'm doing now. I know she definitely is smiling up in heaven. I'm like, he's doing a great job out there. I know my dad, he's supportive too. So like basically we sometimes talk about mom, and my uncle, same thing with him too. But just overall with my mom, like I know she's proud of the work that I'm doing. So that motivates me to keep doing it. Cause today I didn't really even want to get up this morning. My back's been a little awful. Had to work a couple of shifts. We've had things happen on the job and, just things happen in the business, and just sometimes I've just been a little bit like, I don't really want to do anything. But I told myself like, I'm doing this one because, I believe this is what God wants me to do. Two, I know that God basically he used my mom. He talked through my mom to talk to me. So all the things that I know about Christianity, I knew they came from her. And basically just overall, I knew that this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And the third thing is it's my purpose. And when you're doing something that's purpose driven, it goes up and it goes down, but I focus more on the ups than the downs.
I couldn't relate more. I went through so much grief personally in sobriety myself. My mom passed away before I got sober, before addiction, but my mother-in-law passed away about 6 months ago. And then I had two pets die back to back. And exactly what you said, you have to kind of just allow yourself to feel it and just go through the motion. And you are going to get unsolicited advice from multiple different people giving you this is how they coped when this person died. And then, and you don't want to hear it ever because you're going to go through what you go through. But they wouldn't want us to pick up. And I did promise my mother-in-law on her deathbed that I wouldn't pick up again. So that's my motivation.
So, a couple quick questions based on some of the stuff I've seen you post. What is what nobody warns you about in long-term sobriety? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so that was like a whole like hour teaching, and basically the gist of it was like what people don't warn you about is people trying to give you unsolicited advice, the mood swings, the bad attitude problem. I mean, if I'm just being blunt, the men and the women trying to flirt with you and trying to get in bed with you, that they don't worry about that at all. They just people just trying to try to start a relationship with you, and also from my perspective, people trying to take advantage of me being 7 years sober and like, oh, well, like I really love you and this, that, and the other, and just trying to like really, what's the words I want to say? Like push the boundaries a little bit. Me being a Christian man, and I've met other Christian women who, they try to sit down here, they try to push the boundaries. It's like, no, we ain't supposed to be doing that. I don't agree with that. That's not how I'm in alignment with. And it's like, well, why do you have to be such a prude? Why do you have to be so rude and this, that, and the other? It's like, and then I've been accused of, yeah, also you get accused of things too. You get accused of being a prude and rude, controlling. And it's like, this is all because you have boundaries. So, and also you're trying
Yeah.
to do a good life and people keep on trying to pull you back into the old life. It's like in the Christian faith, we call it spiritual warfare. So you're trying to do right, and
Yeah.
people keep on trying to pull you back to your old life. So what I was talking about with that is that overall, like you're gonna try to do the right thing, and people are gonna keep on trying to remind you of who you used to be, while you're trying to be a brand new
So
person.
true. Yeah, that's so true. I think Rachel and I have both been experiencing that lately
Oh,
from
yeah.
people from the past, just trying to keep us humble per se, or trying to remind us like, hey, you used to be an
Oh, yeah.
asshole, or you used to be like this, like Ratchet Rachel is her
Alter ego
is her
and
alter
remind
ego.
me of who I used to be, all because I'm a mom now. And yeah, it's always going to be thrown in your face.
I did an interview on another podcast a few months ago, and like I got messages from people being like, "Oh, you were such an a-hole. Now look at you trying to do this." I'm like, "Yes, that's why I'm doing this and talking about it and opening up, because I was. I admit that I was not. I was far from perfect, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to use my story to help other people realize they're not alone and that we can change, we can improve. So
Yeah.
sounds like that's what you're doing too. One last question from me, and I'll let Rachel ask the last question. How do you step up as a man? The real talk. I saw that on a post. I was
Yeah,
curious.
yeah. So that post was basically just talking about, man, just take responsibility for your actions. Like, there's a Bible verse that says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child and understood as a child. When I became a man, I put childish things behind me. So, like, blaming everybody for your problems, blaming women, blaming the job, blaming the coworkers, all this victimhood. Why do all these things happening to me? Like, with me, I can't do it. I can't do the victimhood when I hear another man talking about things. I get it. Everybody going through something. Like I totally, totally get that. But it's like, you a man, you got bills to pay. Like I guess I'm old school like my daddy when it comes to that respect. It's like, you a man, you got kids, you got bills to pay, and even if you don't have kids, you still got bills to pay, you still got things to do. Like my dad and I was talking about this. He was telling me, I'm proud of you for choosing your freedom, but keep your job on the side, because you need money and you got bills to pay. At first, I was like, is my dad trying to like tell me not to do choose your freedom no more? But then when I paused and thought about it, he was just giving me like that, I guess that like grown man talk of like, you got to do what you got to do. Okay. Like sometimes we've been given a hard hand. I can sit down and be like, damn, my mom passed away. I was touching inappropriately. I battled with addiction. I'm going to just walk around here cussing everybody out, tell everybody, shut up, don't talk to me, this, that, and the other. But what's that gonna get me? I could sit down and say, well, it was my boss that tried to get me in trouble. But it's like if I keep on showing up late, then what the heck they supposed to do? They gotta fire me. I kept showing up late. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Sit down here and get mad at my boss because I kept showing up late? If I would just kept on showing up on time, I would have had a job. So that's how I talk to other people. It's like, listen, you can't let people push you around. If you got kids, take care of your kids. Okay. I get that the child support system is crazy, this, that, and the other, but like you gotta do something. You gotta talk to some people and try to make something happen. And just most importantly, like what you're going through in your life is not like a death sentence. You have to go do something. And the other thing I just tell men is that, instead of always arguing with everybody and trying to say you don't understand my story, just try to listen to what they have to say. Or if you don't want them to give you unsolicited advice, just tell them, hey, look, listen, I'm not looking for your advice. Like, you're a man. You can tell them no. Like, you're a man. You don't have to try to sit down here and try to make everybody else happy. Like, you got to protect yourself and you got to do what you got to do sometimes. Sometimes you may have to work longer hours, like, not all the time, but sometimes for a season, that's what you have to do. If you need some help, you got a meeting, you go to therapy, you can go figure it out. But, like, ain't nobody gonna be able just to read your mind and say, Caleb's having a bad day today. Like, no, I gotta tell people I'm having a bad day today. So overall, that's what
Mhm.
it was about.
And one last question from me. I saw a post with men in authority. Does that tie into that?
Oh yeah, that ties into it a lot because I learned a lot of men don't like it when anyone tells them what to do. I see this a lot in early recovery. Hence why I said earlier, me being the TV police. It's like, okay, you just don't like it when somebody tells you what to do. This is what this all comes down to. Like, you want to just do things the way you want to do things, and me telling you to turn this TV off at 11, it's not the TV rule. It's just basically I don't want anybody telling me what to do and I dress business casual at my job. So like they look at me as like some kind of a police, which I'm far from, but it overall it's funny but insightful at the same time because it's like you just don't want anybody telling you what to do. And what I learned is that if you can't have anybody telling you what to do, it's gonna be a lot more hard for you to keep a job, to keep a car, to keep friends, to keep family. And you're gonna find yourself in and out of rehab. You're gonna find yourself in and out of therapy sessions. You're gonna find yourself giving everybody a hard time. And most importantly, there's gonna be one time in your life it's gonna be like, okay, I was literally the problem the whole entire time. So I got two options. I could just listen, shut up, and just do as I'm told, or I could just keep being disobedient, hard-headed, ended up in and out of jail, ended up in and out of rehab, or just most importantly, making everyone else's life terrible and miserable, and just being just an overall Grinch to everybody, and then finding myself alone all the time. So that's the main thing I've seen.
Good. So, what would be some final advice you'd give to anybody out there listening that's struggling right now, male or female? Just what would be some final advice you'd give based on your experience?
Yeah, so what I would tell people is don't get too like deep into the future. A lot of people get really deep into the future and it's good to think about things in the future, like things like, hey, I'm really loving the space that I'm in. I may want to go back to school or, hey, like I'm really helping out a lot of people. I may want to do this, this, and this. But like, don't get so deep into the future because then it's like, well, then you can find yourself ruminating and saying, well, I should be able to do this, this, and this perfectly. Don't try to perfect everything. Don't try to, think too much to the future. Sometimes it's not even just one day at a time. Sometimes just one moment at a time. Don't let the bad day that you're going through have you going to run to the liquor store or going to a strip club or going to a bar or just hitting up your ex that don't like you anyway, because you just want to get some temporary relief. Sit down and ground yourself. Just say, you know what? I'm going to be just fine. Let me call my sponsor. Let me call my pastor, whoever it is that you're connected with, whether it's religion or spirituality, whatever the case may be. But like, you got to talk. Can't nobody read your mind and say, oh, Caleb's having a bad day or so-and-so having a bad day. Don't nobody know what's going on with you. Okay. Or if you just say, you know what? I'm okay. I just need some time to myself. You got to verbalize that too. That's one thing I learned because sometimes people just don't know. They trying to help, but sometimes they just don't know. So that's what I've learned.
Well said. So, yeah, no, I appreciate everything you said. And honestly, your story is very inspiring. And everything you're doing is obviously helping people. So we're both grateful for that. And thank you so much for being on the show, man. I'm glad you responded and jumped on today. Appreciate it.
No, thank you for having
Thank
me.
you.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.